I also noticed the deeper you get into running your business, the more you can do, and then you realize, for me, for years, I did my own PR, and it was easy, and I loved it, and I was very successful at it, and now I know how much time that took, and I have other things to do.
Welcome to Breaking Down Your Business, episode 277.
You done it again.
The show notes in this episode are breakingdownyourbusiness.com/277.
I jumped out of my skin.
So that's Jill Salzman who's jumping out of her skin.
And that's Brad Ferris of Anchor Advisors who makes me sweat every episode.
The coffee makes you sweat. Don't put that on me.
You amplify the caffeine in my body, and I have back sweat right now.
That would be an awesome superpower.
FYI. To have back sweat?
No.
On a podcast?
To be able to amplify the caffeine in your body.
You do. You think I'm joking, but I'm not kidding. It makes me sweat a little more. It's called adrenaline, Brad. Right. You bring out the best in me.
All right. We're going to bring out the best in our audience today because we're going to talk about how they need help.
Do they, though? That's quite presumptuous of you.
We're going to talk about VAs. We're going to talk about contractors. We're going to talk about employees. And then we're going to talk about how to hire.
Well, that's good. I just need help there.
So, Jill, for a long time, you've run the FMC by yourself.
I sure have. FMC stands for Founding Moms Community.
Do you want to say a little bit about the Founding Moms
I'm just
Community?
letting people know.
Okay.
Oh, it's my online platform
where
I have built a community for mom entrepreneurs who want to build better businesses. So we have a library of video courses, and we have accountability programs, and we're launching a book promotion program, and we're going to have internal in-house virtual assistants for our members. And there's so much. It's disgusting.
So you would go to foundingmoms.com/FMC to find out more?
I love you, Brad. You sure would. Why do I forget to say that on this podcast? Everybody go and join us.
So for a long time, you were running the whole organization, not just the FMC, but the offline meetups.
And offline meetups.
All by yourself.
Well, I'd like to say in every city we had a host doing her thing there, but yes, I was the overlord.
You were
the overseer.
The overlord. I love that.
I was.
Jill was the overlord.
I was. Overlordess?
And I hear this from a lot of business owners.
Yeah.
They work really, really hard at the business, and they really need help, but it's really hard for them to make the decision to get help.
It's not really hard. It's nearly impossible. Okay. Because if you're running so many things and you're doing it well after enough years, why on earth would you hand it over to someone else? They don't know what you're doing.
Because
they don't know the love you put into it.
You're killing yourself.
Yeah, but they don't know. They don't know.
And most of the things you're doing, you're probably not doing that great a job of.
And then you hear advice like this, and you're like, well, I hired a graphic designer, so I'm all set. Because I'm not doing something, that I can't do anyway because I can't draw stick figures.
What got you to the point where you're like, okay, this is too painful. I can't keep doing it like this?
It became so overwhelming for me. Mostly, I think, lots of things, but I can sum it up most recently in the way that enough members said, I'm getting lost inside the FMC. There are so many resources, so many valuable tools, but I don't know where to go. And I remember having a day where I was like, wait a second. This is really hard to admit, but for the first time, like, I don't know how to organize it for you. I don't have a background in this.
There you go.
I'm not an educational consultant.
You've reached the end of your expertise.
I have, and that's sad to me. And I had to have a thing with myself about that. And then I realized, okay, I need to bring somebody in to do that.
For me, and this was a long time ago now, but I remember sitting at my desk and thinking, if I hire someone, I could make more money.
Really, I've never said that to myself.
Well, because I am the product in a certain segment of my business, right?
Yes.
And so things that I'm doing that are not money-making are preventing me from making money. So I need to find someone to do these things that are not money-making so that I can make more money.
You're a genius, though, and you're way ahead of the rest of us.
Well, I did a time study where I wrote down everything that I did every half hour of the day for a week.
Yeah.
And I added it up, and I was spending 4 hours a week, so 20% of my time. No, 8 hours a week, 20% of my time, scheduling appointments on my calendar.
Oh, this is why you have someone doing your calendar.
It was like a no-brainer.
That's a lot of hours for calendaring.
I can get a day a week back for, $25 or $30 an hour.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Right.
But I think we all have those things that we're doing, maybe because we enjoy them. Maybe it's, graphic design, or maybe it's, our social media or whatever. We enjoy it, but it's not really making us any money.
I also noticed the deeper you get into running your business, the more you can do, and then you realize, for me, for years, I did my own PR.
Yeah.
And it was easy, and I loved it, and I was very successful at it. And now I know how much time that took.
Yeah.
And I have other things to do.
It makes you want to cry.
Right. And I don't know if anybody can do it better
Right.
than I did for my purposes.
Probably not.
But I don't know, though. I think that's a bit, I'm going to throw myself into
Yeah.
the ego ring and say, of course they can. I just have to train them.
If they could do it 80% as well for 20% of the cost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
a winner.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So we get to that point where either there are things we don't know and we
Right.
don't want to learn.
Right.
Right. Or we realize we could make more money.
Yeah.
Or we just realize that we can't do this anymore even though we enjoy it.
Right. Right.
And so then we need some help. And the first thing I want to say is I think when I decided I needed help, I felt like a failure to a certain extent.
That's what, yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But really, hiring people makes you a success.
Yeah, right. I know. But I think to others, that's true. But in your mind, you're going, I can't do it alone anymore.
But that's messed
I'm
up.
a loser.
That's so messed up.
I don't know the psychology behind it. It's
I don't
just
either.
true.
But
It's
I just want to
true.
say, if you're out there and you're thinking, no, I got to do it all by myself, that's the only way I'm a success,
Then you are a loser.
that is horse hockey.
And by the way, if you know the psychology behind it, 708-872-7878. We'd love to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Text it, call it, whatever.
Yeah.
So we've established that you need help, and it's okay to get help, right?
Right.
So how do you take that first step toward getting some help?
Well, you talk to Brad Ferris, and he tells you exactly. Well, you know what? Usually I'm one to put out the word immediately to a community of people. Hey, I'm looking to hire. Do you know anybody? That's always my first step. And a lot of people will go, sure, yeah, let me think about it. And they don't do anything. And this time I created I wrote up what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. I had somebody look it over to make sure I was clear. Because it's all in my head because I've been doing it so long. And then I posted it on my blog, posted it on LinkedIn, posted it in a couple places. And I don't know if I did any of that correctly. Hiring Pro.
Well, did you get candidates?
I did.
And did you screen those candidates?
I did.
Did you hire someone?
I did not.
Okay.
I want to say I didn't get a ton because the position was commission-based.
Right.
And that's never fun for anyone.
It's difficult.
And
So let me just pause right there.
Yeah.
There are a lot of business owners who will come to me and say, Brad, all I need is a 100% commission salesperson and my business will be great.
I don't know. I put out a commission-based ad and I'm laughing at that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because how does that sound, Jill?
Like there's no money in it?
Well, let's just picture the candidate who's going to apply for that ad.
Oh, correct.
Right?
Right. It's
If I'm a commission-based salesperson, that's what I do, right?
right.
Why would I choose to come to a company that's never had a successful salesperson
Right.
to grow your business on a totally risked basis?
And for those of you who've done this or thinking of doing it, the flip side is, in my mind, I know how lucrative it could be. I know the potential for them.
Yes.
But I have learned now there's no way to translate that through a post on the phone.
If you,
it's
as
really
the
hard.
business owner, create a sales success, if you have a sales process that's working,
Sure.
you can bring somebody into that. But if you don't, if you're saying, "Oh, I just want someone else to take over sales and make it happen,"
Right.
no one,
Right.
no one
Right.
in their right mind is going to take that job.
I got some right-minded people because I was fortunate enough to have a couple of people, one who was very impressive, who were either they wanted to get out of corporate and be a stay-at-home mom, or they just were looking for part-time, and their mission in life matched ours.
Yes.
And so I had some really solid candidates, and in talking to them, it was a wonderful education for me because I realized, you know what? And I had, of course, been getting advice from colleagues like you. I don't really think that I want to spend the time onboarding this person, even if they're willing to do it commission-based, because that amount of time is going to take me away from so much else. Then why am I not just hiring a part-time project-based virtual assistant of some sort to do, maybe if there's 5 jobs in the one job I'm looking for, that could be 5 different virtual assistants.
So I want to get to that, but let me back up one step.
Okay.
The other thing about the commission person or someone who has a low salary, high upside, which it's easy to understand why people are attracted to that because we don't necessarily have the cash. The new customers
and
are
a lot of
bring
startups do this when they're
Right.
hiring COOs, CFOs,
Right.
CEOs. Yeah.
The other problem with that is if you don't pay them enough, or if they're having success right away, they're not really in it, right? And so now you've filled the job and you've invested in someone, and they're kind of halfway there.
Yeah.
You want to pay people so that you have their attention and so that you can manage them.
And in fact, when I used to take on people who volunteered for me at the beginning of my career in this, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
And once money became an issue, every person I interviewed for this recent post I put up said to me, well, how long do you think it's going to take before I see any money?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's not a good question.
Right.
Even though that's a totally appropriate question to ask me, don't ask me that.
They're not in it.
Yeah.
They're not in it.
So.
Or they can't be in it long enough.
It was an excellent exercise.
Right.
I love that I did it.
So instead of doing that, you've turned to thinking about contractors and VAs.
Correct.
So tell me how that thought process went.
That thought process stemmed from a lot of colleagues who suggested the same thing to me all around. Go and just hire specific folks. It's pretty inexpensive to hire an assistant online. Mm-hmm. They don't have to be in the office with me. Mm-hmm. I can, at my own pace, train them to do what I need them to do. Mm-hmm. I found a company where if I hire one person and she finds the job to be too big for herself, she brings on another VA who does it with her.
And trains them for you.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's where I am right now.
So what type of things have you handed over to the VA?
I have 2 VAs that I've hired. One is solely to do PR because I know how hard that job is, and I know how bad it can be, which is why I've skipped PR agencies.
Yep.
And I'm going to train her to help me promote a book I'm coming out with at the end of November.
Okay.
I then hired another person. I think the job is too big for her, but we're starting small, getting her used to it. She's organizing stuff that I haven't organized in years. So she's actually creating more work that I didn't even realize was there.
Right, of course. Which honestly, that happens frequently when you hire someone.
Huh.
Because, like you said, you're doing like the minimal keeping the lights on amount of work because you're doing 100 other things, right? But someone who actually wants to do that job well finds all these things that should be done, and you're like, oh, yeah, that totally should. You're totally right.
Specifically, this person I've brought on board to help me systematize all of our hosts around the world of our meetups. Yep. So I want to get the meetups flourishing again and add way more of them. Mm-hmm. So she's just getting things organized.
Which is great.
I was busy building the online platform.
And doesn't it feel great that she's doing that?
It's like dusting a room, not that I've ever done that, but it's like, it's such a huge sigh of relief. Yeah, I love it.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. And it's way easier than encouraging her and giving her a morale boost that she's part of a team.
Right.
And blah, blah, blah. She's just doing her job.
So
simple.
I recently, I do recruiting as a part of the services that I offer. And I've been having my advisor team do the actual recruiting, like screening candidates and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But we had a whole bunch of recruiting this year. And so I hired someone who's just a recruiter.
Oh.
And so we split the fee with her on recruiting.
Okay.
And she does nothing but manage the candidate flow, do the phone screens, schedule the interviews, all that kind of stuff.
That feels so good. I'm feeling good for you.
Right?
Does it feel good?
And you know what's great about it? This is what she does.
Right.
This is her expertise.
Specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's instead of having someone who's a business advisor who's doing phone screens, who they did a good job because they were intelligent and but this is what she does, and the insights that she came back with were things that we wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Right.
And it's just done, right? Like it's just done.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing.
Right. So it's been a treat so far.
It's nice.
I might complain in the next episode, but so far it's been awesome.
So as we close here, what would you go back to your former self and tell that person now? Now you've got some help. You've reached out to some people. That person who is afraid of getting help, what would you say to that person?
Stop it. I would test out. If you're hearing this and you're even questioning, is what they're talking about something I need? It probably means you might need it. Because those of you who are absolutely sure you won't succeed with one anyway. But I was going to say, test it out. Just go hire a virtual assistant. You can go to something easy as Upwork.com, but find someone somewhere, test out what it's like to pay somebody for 5 hours of work and see how that feels. You think?
I think it's awesome.
All right. I think we crushed it.
You crushed it.